Welcome to the 22nd episode of Too Long Didn't Scroll, everyone, the YouTube show and accompanying podcast dealing major events that happen in the world every day. Get your day started with an around 5-minute, quick and listenable show that can give you a daily news fix as an alternative to endless scrolling through your endless newsfeed. Listen in on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more. It's your choice. Without further ado, let's get into day 21 of the show. We'll start off the events of February 10th, 2023, centering in on the country of Moldova, a small Eastern European country bordering Ukraine, which continues to struggle against the Russian invasion. Moldova has been the subject of much of the immediate ripple effect the invasion has had on Europe, having accepted over 100,000 Ukrainian refugees, as well as having borne much of the spillover from nearby clashes and missile attacks. Another instance of such spillover has occurred today, as Moldovan and Ukrainian officials have both stated that the volley of Russian missiles flew right above Moldova as they headed towards Ukrainian targets. The Moldovan Defense Ministry has deemed the incident an overt violation of its airspace rights, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has suggested the proximity of the missile attack to Moldova represents a challenge to NATO, especially as fears of the next major Russian offensive into the Ukrainian heartland mount. Moldova has since summoned the immediate arrival of its Russian ambassador for an explanation, and this is not the first time the ambassadors had to answer for such an incident either. Speaking of Moldova, it appears that the country's head of government will now be switching hands, as the incumbent Prime Minister, Natalia Gavrilita, has announced her intention to resign from her position. She's held the position for 18 months, though has spent much of her premiership dealing with numerous inherited crises, including spillover from the Russo-Ukrainian War and the subsequent economic crisis that followed. As of today, Gavrilita has announced her resignation, citing the many immediate and globe-reaching crisis hitting Moldova, and it is expected that the position will be handed off to presidential aide Dorin Risian on President Maia Sandu's recommendation. A parliamentary approval hearing for such is set to occur shortly. We now bring ourselves over to the Middle Eastern states of Israel and Palestine, which during the past few months have been embroiled in many violent incidents surrounding the decades-long conflict between them, especially in the West Bank conflict zone, which included Israeli raids on Palestinian refugee camps and brutal violence committed against both Israeli and Palestinian civilians. As of today, another such incident has occurred in the form of a car ramming attack into several people in the Ramot neighborhood in the Israel-controlled West Jerusalem, killing a Palestinian 6-year-old boy and a 20-year-old man, as well as injuring 5 other people. The perpetrator was identified as a 31-year-old Israeli man, and police have claimed that the attack appears to be a form of terrorist attack, another violent incident out of several committed on both state civilians these past few months. We now dig up memories of a recent incident involving a Chinese surveillance balloon that floated over North America back in the month of January. Over the days of January 28th to February 4th, a surveillance balloon suspected to be of Chinese origin the size of 3 buses and housing a technology bay floated over Canada and over the contiguous United States. China adamantly claimed that the balloon was made for meteorological purposes. Over security and safety concerns, American President Joe Biden ordered the balloon be shot down on February 4th. However, it appears such may not have been the end of high-altitude flying object presence over America, because as of today, another high-altitude flying object was spotted over the state of Alaska. John Kirby, White House security spokesperson, said that the object posed a tangible threat to the safety of civilian flight, leading to President Joe Biden again, as well as Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, agreeing that the object be shot down over Dead Horse, Alaska. As of now, the actual origins or nature of the object, and whether it was actually a surveillance object that even belonged to another country, have yet to be confirmed, and just have been scrambled to retrieve the debris. We now head on over to the country of Peru, which has been embroiled in an intense political crisis and country-spanning protests against the current government since December of 2022, after the removal of then-President Pedro Castillos from accusations he was attempting to dissolve the country's Congress as part of a quote-unquote self-coup attempt. The left-wing Castillo was removed and later arrested, and was replaced by the right-wing Dina Boulart. Angry supporters of Castillo then took to the streets in protest, calling for Boulart to step down and Castillo to be released from prison. Many of the protests have since turned violent, and Peru has declared a state of emergency, which included closing the famous Machu Picchu monument. As of today, Castillo has officially been charged with several crimes, including criminal organization, trafficking, and collusion. Should such charges go ahead, Castillo will be the subject of a full investigation and trial by the country's Attorney General. In other news, a 250-kilogram or 550-pound World War II era bomb that remained unexploded since the war in Great Yarmouth in England exploded while being defused, though no injuries were reported, and 2 people were killed in a roadside bomb explosion in the insurgency-ridden Balochistan region of Pakistan, for which the Balochistan Liberation Army has claimed responsibility.